Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. Hey, everybody. I am here with Marla. Let's talk about shame versus self-love and our relationship with food. What a juicy, juicy topic. Marla, right away, what are some of the things, you've been doing this for decades, supporting women, their relationship with food. And sometimes we have a desire for our body to look and feel a certain way. And then we don't necessarily show up consistently in action in our relationship with food that's going to help get us to the place that we're actually desiring to go. So I'm curious, what are some of the things that you've heard from women over the years?
Well, the things that I've heard is like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? I know what to eat. I know what I'm supposed to eat. I don't know why I can't get myself together around this. Or a lot of women have been dealing with this for a really long time. And it's something that has started at a very young age. And so food has always been this journey or this kind of nemesis. If you're here watching this, I know that you love yourself and I know that you care for yourself. You're following Maraya Brown. She is, a wealth of information around how you can care for your body, right? So there's that underlying love for self. But what happens is when it's connected to wounding, when the wounding around food starts at a very young age, it still comes from this place of there's something wrong with my body and I need to fix it. There's something wrong with how I do my food. I need to fix it. From that place of fixing, from that place of I'm going to get it right this time, there's so much shame there, right? It looks from the outside, and I know this from my own journey. It looks from the outside that we're doing all these things that look like self-care, but the intention underneath it has to be from a place of care and love and concern, not from a place of fixing it and I'm broken. And that is the fundamental piece that needs to be anchored in order to have really, I think, the health and be in the body that we want to be in.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a few things. And I also want to go back and actually have you introduce yourself, but it's
Yeah.
nice to just dig right in and go, what are we
Jump
going to be
right
talking
in.
about? Yeah. Women have been dealing with quotations this. Like for those of you listening and you're not watching, I have my little bunny ears by my ears. What I heard you say is dealing with this. And I'd love for you to, what is, wait 1 second. So then there's also the wounds around food, this feeling of what's wrong with me or I need to fix something. What I'm hearing is that women will have a relationship with food that somehow links to how they're going to fix themselves, how they're going to fix their behavior, they're going to fix their shame, they're going to fix their unlovability by, for me, when I think about in high school, I'd struggle with eating disorders and into early college. It was an issue of control for me. If
Absolutely.
everything in my life felt out of control, it was the thing that I could control. So I guess maybe somehow in the midst of that, I was trying to fix the world, really. I was trying to fix where I felt wronged or dismissed or abandoned. And so it offered me a place for control. But when you say dealing with this, what is this?
This can look like so many different things. This can look like just what you were saying, the control of food. the restriction, the dieting, right? Even the dieting that looks like the good cleanse, it can show up in so many ways. This can look like emotional eating after a long day. This can look like doing really well, meaning like you're on your, you've been eating really well. And then all of a sudden over the weekend, you're like stuffing a bunch of food in your mouth. This can look like obsessing about food and having it in the background, in the noise of food, the obsession of food. The orthorexia for a lot of people, like it has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then it creates so much fear
Yeah.
and overwhelm.
Yeah. I love that you're saying this because I'll work with women where it's almost like the quest to have the perfect nutrition,
Mhm.
that alone becomes an obsession. So
Absolutely.
they're doing what's right with the organic and the gluten-free and the sugar-free and the dairy-free and the water that's blessed by monks in the Himalayan mountains and the chickens that are massaged every day, at every 2 hour. I mean, like, how far are we gonna go? And I get it. It's for the quest because we wanna feel good, and we wanna have peak performance and optimize how we feel. But then it's like, man, we're trying to reduce stress here. We're trying to reduce inflammation. We're trying to feel good, and the quest for feeling good becomes a new source of stress.
Yeah, it's a very fine line. And I want to say that I'm going to speak to this point because it's important. It doesn't mean that, well, I'll just share my story. So the food that I eat now is super clean. It's all the things that you said. And years ago, I was doing that, but I was doing it because I had that grip. I had that obsession,
Yeah.
right? So now that I've worked many, many years to recover and to heal my relationship with my body, my food, I can now come to this decision to care for myself because it is an act of love. It's not a place of shame. Now,
Yeah.
the thing is that dieting can become an addiction. It has addictive ways of looking at it, right? It's like the next best thing and the next thing and the next thing. We can become addicted to anything. And dieting really has that carrot in front of you because, diet culture is always giving us new things to try, telling us what we're doing is wrong. So it creates that fear. And now we're going for the next thing.
Yeah. Right. The next keto, the next intermittent fasting, the next
Yeah.
whatever it may be. You know what it makes me think of? You know the drama triangle?
Yeah.
So we've got victim, villain, and hero, right?
Uh-huh.
And tell me if this is at all resonates with your book and what you're thinking. Where I kind of went was we can either be in shame and guilt and in this cycle of kind of ping ponging between, ooh, now I'm the victim, ooh, now I'm the hero, now I'm the villain, versus when we step out of the entire bullshit and we just go to ease. Like, I think about decades where I worried about my food. I tried to find the best thing. I was thinking about the food in the background. I didn't feel well. It was a source of control versus I've kind of found a way that just feels good and it feels easy. And there's no victim, there's no villain, there's no hero. It's just simple and it's ease and it's coming from self-love. Does that relate to some what
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. So we take this idea of self-love and it's like, well, what does that even really mean? Right? It's like it's almost such a big concept, right? That like how do we actually tangibly do that? And so when I wrote my book, which is called Befriend Yourself, Finding Freedom with Food and Peace with Your Body, and I was looking at my own journey with food and body crazy obsession stuff, I realized that how I healed was by becoming my own best friend. So it takes us out of that, what you're saying, that triangle, and puts it into a different paradigm. So, as a best friend, if you came to me, Mariah, and you were feeling like, wow, this was really awful, and I feel really bad about myself, right? And I need like a place to go. As your best friend, I would hold you. I would listen. I would care. I would be present. I would be right there. And that's what we want to do for ourselves. So it's showing up in these moments. It's showing up when the shame is there. It's showing up when the food isn't great. It's showing up to how would I speak to myself, right? A best friend does not speak crap to you. If they do, then you need to find another best friend, right? And so it kind of gets away from that whole paradigm and makes it in these bite-sized moments of like, what would my best friend do for me right now?
Mm. So good that we get to be our own best friend. I think that let's go back and like your bio. For those of
Ah,
you that are listening and you're on the podcast or whatever you are, obviously, if I've brought Marla on, she's credentialed. She has a track record of success. She has a TEDx talk. She's just published a new book. She works at an eating disorder recovery center. She's does Reiki circles and was known as the leading body image expert and Reiki master at Journey Malibu, which is a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center in Malibu, California. There's so much sexual wellness, postpartum care, pelvic floor support, tantra and yoga. When I first met Marla, I think the first time I met you was in the prenatal group, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had moved from Hawaii to Ashland and you were in Southern Oregon, and I was in a prenatal group. It wasn't a childbirth group, but it was a group of many of us that were pregnant together, and we were doing artwork and we were having conversations. And the midwife brought Marla in as a guest expert to talk about body image, particularly when I think about for women during chapters of change. That's puberty, that's pregnancy, that's postpartum, that's perimenopause, that's menopause, where the caterpillar goes into chrysalis and we become goo and it's changing. And then, the butterfly's going to
Oh,
emerge, but it's uncomfortable and it's redefining. And all of the past shame and then my best friend stuff comes bubbling up. And then we became friends. And then you moved to LA and now you're in Hawaii and I'm still here in Southern Oregon. You're still doing the amazing work that you do. Anything else that you want to add to just your background, your bio? I think your story would be potent, but anything you want to add there?
I'll just say that really my bio is the fact that I have recovered from eating disorder, disordered eating, all the crazy food stuff, all the body image stuff. I mean, I'm still in this world. I'm still a woman in a body who's in perimenopause and going through all the uncomfortable moments. But I do like those are just the credentials for what I have found for myself, which is freedom.
Mm.
And that for me is way more than anything that
Yeah.
I've just talked about, right? Because I think so many people out there are struggling and feel like I will never feel better. And I used to feel that way all the time. And the fact that I do is like a bloody miracle.
Absolute freedom of spirits, freedom of body, freedom of obsession, freedom of addiction, freedom of shame, freedom of self-love, all of it. And to make sure that everybody heard, I really want to make sure you heard this. Marla published a book,
Mm.
Befriend Yourself, and it's on the bookshelves. But what is someone going to find in Befriend Yourself if they choose to read it?
Well, I just had a woman share with me, which was my intention for writing the book. She read it and she's like, I immediately started reading it again. She's like, when I started reading it, I felt like you were talking to my body.
Mm.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted an embodied experience. Don't want it just to be an idea. I wanted this book to land in the cells, to land in the heart. So it's not like specifically a how to do this, do that, do this. It's my story, it's other client stories, and it's really like the bite-sized moments of how do we take those moments of pain and upset and use that theme of becoming my own best friend to get myself out of that.
Mhm.
So, it's as we're talking about shame here, it's about how to deal with that, how to deal with these moments that can kind of take us down. And it's very practical and it's very real and it's raw and it's funny and it's all the things. And I think it's very relatable because my journey, my story isn't something unique. I think a lot of women will relate to it, unfortunately.
Mm. What percentage of women would you do you know stats? Like, what are we talking? How many women struggle with emotional eating? How many women have addictive behavior with food and
Well, I see a
different?
lot of different things as far as body image. It's like up in like sometimes I've seen it's like 90%. Even like young girls, like 12 year olds, like 86% of 12-year-olds are starting to diet. Things like crazy things like that.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's striking and scary and it's so normalized. And so many people are speaking diet culture all the time and don't even realize it. They're commenting on each other's bodies all the time, saying, "Wow, you've lost weight. What are you doing?" I work with a lot of people. I work with people in Spain and Amsterdam and, Australia, and so I feel like
Mhm.
unfortunately it's worldwide.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some tips and tricks?
Yeah.
If a
So
woman
let's
knows that she wants to heal her emotional eating,
Yes,
where does
let's
she
look at
start?
that. Where does she start? She starts with not trying to fix the food. That's the
Mm,
thing. People want to fix the food. If I fix the food, then I won't be emotionally eating. And it doesn't start there. It starts with why are you emotionally eating to begin with? So usually someone comes to me to fix their emotional eating because they've gained weight. Up until that point, they're fine emotionally eating. They're they're getting away with it, you know? It's okay, but it's like now the body is showing this isn't all right, right? The
mhm,
body is activated and it shows up often in the weight, but it's not a weight issue. It's the fact that the way that someone is coping is with food. So we got to look at why are we coping? What is the stress? And so this can look like a lot of different things, Mariah. It can look like the practicality of stress. So, what I see with a lot of people is maybe they're doing intermittent fasting, or maybe they're doing the rushing around in the morning. They don't really feed themselves. They're stressed out. Then they get to lunch and they have the sensible salad with a little bit of protein. They're still on fumes. And they have a full day. They're living their lives. They're wanting to create. They're being passionate. They're being mothers. They're doing all the things. Right. And even if we're not going through any huge transition or trauma in our life or any huge thing, we still have the stress of living. And so then by the time they get home, then they eat the dinner. And then after they've eaten the dinner, their body goes, huh. And then their body drops in. And then it's like, I deserve something.
huh,
I deserve more pleasure. I deserve that thing. I worked hard. And so now they're shoving food in because now they're sitting with the stress that they've been with and they don't have any tools on how to be with that. So there's that element.
and so is the practical tool just to I
Feed
have my
yourself.
brother's voice with is just like calories in, calories out. Food is for nutrition. Like if you just see it practically, I imagine that's what my older brother would say. And I go, okay, logically that makes sense. But if
Like,
underneath that is someone's propensity to overdo or not actually receive the nutrients, to feel like they need to be fixed or there's something wrong with them. It's so much deeper than just the simple linear food as a nutritional source because it
right.
is a source of love and emotion. I mean, you think of all the stories of the kitchen and the meals and grandma's home cooked cookies. I mean, it is an emotional experience.
It really is. And that is good. So I want to break this down. I really want to break this down for us. So we're looking at the paradigm of self-care and food as self-care and a little bit of what your brother's saying. Eat the food. It's a practical thing. You need to eat something to sustain yourself. And we want to look at the day as, where in the day am I nourishing my being, my spirit? Where in the day am I moving my body? Where in the day am I caring for myself and not going and pushing myself, right? And then there's what you're speaking to also, which is food is an emotional thing. And it is meant to be. That is God's gift to us. That it is here. It does ground us. It does work. Food works with stress, right? We eat those grounding, yummy, like, sweet potato. We eat those grounding things when we're needing, like, right? Like it works and it is for us. And so we're not making food the enemy. It is so true that we want to allow ourselves to celebrate and to be in celebration with food. And then there's the emotional eating. So we'd have the practical, the self-care, the nourishing. When then we have the acknowledging that food is a source of helping us emotionally, celebrating and bringing us into our body. And then there's the emotional coping that many of people have had from the beginning. And what you spoke to and you hinted on is when food is connected to a deep love and wound. And so what I see, Maraya, over and over again is that it shows up in the mother wound. When the mother isn't present, food can come in. When there's a lot of trauma or dysfunction in the family, food can be that binge eating at a very young age, can be that source. That emotional eating can come in, the binge eating, the overeating, the obsession around food. That becomes the way to disassociate and to find freedom. So a lot of these things, we can't just fix the food. We have to go back and actually look at the inner child, the inner character that is still afraid. Like, you're going to take away my food? You're going to take away my source of being okay? That is the friend. That is the friend. The food becomes the friend. The food becomes the savior. So on a deep level, working with a lot of women, one woman comes to mind where we really see that when she started binge eating was sitting around the table with her family fighting. And she just started binging. She just put her head down and she just started eating. And was one point where it's like, I asked her, are you ready? Because she wanted to stop binge eating. And she's like, I'm not ready. And that acknowledgement of that is, now we know what we're working with. And now she can stop to shame herself for this behavior and see that it's an inner part that needs safety. And what a gift, right? What a gift to know that we're not just fixing ourselves, we're healing on a really deep level. And that can be, for some people, like, I just want my food to be okay. I just want to control my food. I want to go back into this whole thing, right? And it's such an inside out experience, and it's such an opportunity to heal and love and be present. And it impacts our lives in so many ways.
It makes me think of one of my clients. She just wanted to know the rules. Like
Oh,
I just want to know the rules. Like, I'm following all the rules, but it's
mm,
not showing up on the scale. So what am I doing wrong? And what is the new rule? And it's hard for me to relate to that way of thinking, because there are no rules here. It's so much deeper, and it's around our deeper connection in relationships, relationship with ourself, relationship with our family of origin. And that's intense, like, I think right now I'm actually just filling out the paperwork right now. I'm starting with a new therapist next week. And it's like, whew, I'm going to dig in and do some of the deeper personal work. And it's time, because I'm seeing patterns show up. It might not be an overeating, but however I see it show up, and it relates to my relationship with humans. It
yes.
relates to when I put up my guard, when I go into behavior that I can observe that I know isn't self serving. It's not coming from self love.
Yeah.
And so then what do I do with that? So it sounds like the easy thing in this scenario with our relationship with food is to try to fix the food. But what I'm hearing from you is fixing the food isn't actually getting us where we're desiring to go. It's actually kind of pulling back the layers of the onion, so to speak, and listening inside. So, do you have specific practices to help women become more aware of, well, what is actually underneath this and where is it coming from? Like that story of, the young girl with fighting parents and putting her head down and just shoving the food in her mouth. Is that a
Yeah,
common theme?
that can, a lot of these things are common. No, some of the things are pretty deep, and I do think that we do need someone to support us in them because we're touching on the other deeper layers. Now, some of them aren't. Some of them are just behavior. Some of them are just like, oh, I'm doing that because of what my dad said then. I'm not doing that anymore. It's just like the
Mhm.
acknowledgement.
Mhm.
I think it's the awareness of it is really important. So I was working with this woman, and she was sharing with me about, I binged again. I binged again. I don't know why I can't love myself.
Mm.
And I shared with her, no, like you love yourself in spite of that behavior. You don't get to love yourself once you stopped binging. You love
Right.
yourself even because you've binged, because there's a part of you that is aching and hurting, and that you're still in this process. I mean, the moments where I've so the moments so food and body stuff are still my coping mechanism. That is how I cope, right? We all have a coping mechanism. That is mine. It's been here ever since the beginning of well, I can remember. So I know when something is up on a deeper level, when all of a sudden I'm looking at my body, overlooking, like I'm looking at it a little bit more, or I'm saying something mean to myself, or I'm overeating. Right around my book, when I had my book come out, it was a couple days afterwards, and I was eating lunch, and then I started eating more lunch, and then I ate a little bit more. I'm like, okay, whoa, 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 what's going on here? And so that sign of the overeating, that sign of being mean to myself, it tells me that there's something deeper going on.
Mhm.
So I paused in that moment, and I'm like, okay, I was just with myself like I would a friend. What's going on here? What's actually going on is like, oh my gosh, my book just came out. I'm being seen. People are the part of vulnerability that, oh my gosh, right? And I just took that moment, even the moment of acknowledging that that's what it was, soothed
Mhm.
me. And then even a moment more is like, we're okay. We're okay. Right. It's all right.
Right, it all goes back to deep sense of safety.
Safety. Yeah, you're right.
And deep in our cellular being, somewhere inside of us, all of us have a nuance or a grand experience of not feeling safe. And for some, their relationship with food is the place of expression. Maybe it's overworking, maybe it's overexercising, maybe it's putting up walls and closing out and cutting people off. Maybe it's alcohol, drugs, sex, over shopping. I mean, there's so many places that it can be expressed. And so it sounds like we go into that, self awareness. There I am again.
Yes.
And there's some part of me that isn't feeling safe. Can I be in curiosity and explore where is that coming from? And so then when people work with you and when they read their book, you're helping them with tips and tricks with what to do with it. But also, I'm imagining you're also helping them along their journey of self awareness.
Absolutely. It's the practical tools. It's how to be in life. And it's also, like you were saying, like a lot of these food behaviors show up in our life. The saying, how we do one thing is how we do everything. That's
Mhm.
true sometimes, but it does, like when we're in control here with the food, that control can show up somewhere else. What I'm doing for people is being present in their life, showing up in these moments where someone feels really alone and feels like they're a little crazy. right? Like,
Right.
like, why am I doing that? Why am I thinking this? And I'm just like, oh, girl, I I know this space. I know this crazy place. Like, I know that feels like it's and even that can be like, oh my gosh, someone gets that, right? And then there is that deeper place. One of my specialties, Maraya, is really finding where that wound is and then really using, spiritual tools and really, using the full essence of someone to allow them to heal.
Mhm. So you're giving them tips and tricks and supporting their relationship with food, but underneath that is finding the origin and using, and when you say spiritual tools, I know that Reiki is a big part of your life. What does that mean, spiritual tools?
So for some people, that can look like encouraging meditation. So do a lot of personalized guided meditations for them to get in that space of love. When I think of spirituality, I think of a higher vibration of love. And so when we're in our dysfunction, it can be challenging to find our own source of love for ourselves. So to be able to call on our higher self, to call on a source of love that's bigger than us in that moment, whether that's walking out in nature or being with Mother Gaia or, praying, right? Like, I don't know what to do in this moment. Please help. And even if you don't even know who you're talking to, right? But calling that prayer up, right? And so the work that I do wraps people up in that love. Like, I can hold a container of such a deep, unconditional love. So whatever is brought to the container is held in a place of you are safe here. And what you share, and I understand, and we will work through it together.
Yeah. And so then what do you see on the other side? Someone's going to start out by reading your book and then they're going to reach out to you and they're going to work with you and you're going to help them with self-awareness and help them with a core deep sense of safety and tools for unconditional self-love and relationship with God, spirit, nature, power, asking for support. All you're going to support them along this journey and then they go, "Oh, I'm safe. And now I have tips and tricks to change my relationship with food and wow, now I'm feeling spectacular and I'm not judging myself and I'm speaking to myself with love and my body looks and feels the way I actually want it to feel." What do you see on the other end? So when you think through these clients that you've supported, what is on the other side?
So this issue of negative self-talk, the food stuff, the obsession. And see this, I want to presence this. You don't have to have a huge blowout eating disorder in order to get support.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to feel like it is out of control. But even if you're on a regular basis thinking about your food and obsessing about your food and it's always there, to heal that creates so much space. I mean, Mariah, it creates the impact of healing this is through every aspect of your life. So I was just working with this man who was healing, and now he was in such a small world of his own dieting. And that was safe, felt safe to him. And now he's dating. Now he's putting himself out there. Now he's allowing himself for more intimacy. I mean,
Mhm.
this, our bodies shows up in our sex life, how we cringe, how we don't allow ourselves to be seen, how that shows up in relationship. I think about myself and how I was afraid to be a mother because I was afraid that I was just going to be binge eating my child's food all the time. And how I wasn't going to be able to take them out for ice cream because I was going to be in so much fear, like the fear and the space that I would get in after I binged. There's so much presence that's available when we heal this.
Yeah.
And there's so much presence that we can be out in social situations and be with family and even have them comment on our food. And we don't care, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's in a work life, right? Like I allow myself to be seen even in a body. Like I don't know about you, but what I see is once I get my food in check, then I will ask for that promotion. Then I will go on a date. Then I will do this, right? When my body is this, then I will allow myself. And that just keeps us small. That keeps us small, which is also keeps us safe, right? So when we, and it's not about, this is the thing that's important to know, that when we're healing this, it is not like we're working with the nervous system. Because if the nervous system is afraid, we can't go into freedom, right? It has to be like a slow burn of like, oh, I feel safe with my food today. Oh, I got to control it. Oh, I feel okay in my body. Oh, I need to, it's kind of this. If you're watching me, you're seeing me do this like open, contract. And as we open and contract, we come to a place of centering in ourselves.
Mhm.
And that is so beautiful. That's where our authenticity lives. And that's where our soul's expression can actually be. And
Mhm.
I am so about that.
Yeah, it feels like it's where freedom exists, it's where presence exists, and it's where self-love and confidence exists
Yes.
to go out in the world. It's interesting, as I was listening, here's the picture that popped into my mind, and hopefully those that are listening are gonna be able to follow this. For me, it doesn't necessarily show up in food,
Hmm.
but where it shows up is if I'm in self-observation and I go into a place where I don't feel safe, I go into self-protection and I block people out. So, my husband posted this beautiful photo on Facebook, which he's never on social media, but he posted this photo and we've hiked in Mount Shasta up to this cliff over Heart Lake, which is this beautiful lake and it's literally shaped as a heart. And he's shirtless and he's got this beautiful body with all of these amazing muscles. And in his mind, he's posting this picture of he and I, and it's love. And I look at the picture, and here I am, 47, really kind of transitioning in this perimenopause chapter, and I've put on 10 pounds in the last year, which is a lot. I'm 5'2". It's uncomfortable, and there's some recalibration going on within in me, and I'm watching my relationship with confidence and my relationship with my belly. So I looked at it, and it triggered within me this background growing up with my father, so male wounding, where if I wanted to celebrate, it always felt like he was kind of wanting to outshine or it be about him. And so, so fascinating. I felt triggered, whether or not I realized it or not. I know his intention was from love and he was proud. And the inner self-talk was, "Oh, yeah, you're gonna show your beautiful muscles, and there I am as this fat woman next to you, and you're gonna outshine me." And so here I am in this churning, and where one woman might go to food, I went to don't feel safe, put up the wall, create separation. And so I share that just because it's coming up, but also just to go, "Wow, there are so many moments that maybe we don't even realize they're there." But there we are again in our coping mechanism. For those listening and those that you work with, they go to food. For others, they go to alcohol. For others, they go into who knows? I mean, there's so many ways that we'll cope, but underneath it, there's something being triggered within us where there's a core part of that little girl, that little boy inside that doesn't feel safe. And so we get to go, wow, okay, there I am again.
Mm.
And how do I want to be and what do I actually want to change? So that it's coming from unconditional love of self and unconditional love for those around me. So your example of you might comment on my food, but it's not going to penetrate me and I don't react to it. So now you've done the personal work and self-observation to be in the place of unconditional love for self. And what I heard is unconditional love for those around you because they're in their own experience and they're in their own journey and their relationship with food and in observation of yours. And who knows what it's triggering within them. And so here we are as human beings, just doing our dance, having our interaction and coming back to self. So curious, when you hear that story, what would you say in response to my journey for those that are listening when they may be in something similar and they go to food as the emotional curb, as the coping, so to speak?
Yeah. I want to just acknowledge you
Mhm.
for your awareness of that, for your awareness of your understanding of how you cope with that, dealing with the discomfort of where you are right now with your body in this transition, and then also being able to link it back to your father and that father wound, right? And so that in itself is so powerful, right? And so now knowing that it's like, okay, so there's that experience of like, okay, how can I heal this wound? How can I go it back and actually look at that? And it maybe sounds like maybe you're doing that with your therapist or whatever, right? And then even in those smaller moments in your life where you're like, oh, it's just a whisper of the disconnection, right? Is like, I notice for myself is like the more I become aware, the more I become aware.
Mm.
And so it's like, it's almost turning up the valve. That was like almost like a blow up, like, wow, that was really uncomfortable. But there's like those moments of like, when am I contracting in my life with my family or my kids or this or that? And those where we're not so triggered that we can change and find safety and allow and let the body know, no, you're actually okay. And it's okay to come forward. Right? It's
Mhm.
okay to put the food down, or it's okay to show up a different way.
Yeah. It all I think the other thing that I'm hearing too is to not do it alone.
Yeah.
Like for women, we so often carry so much and we're caring for everyone and we're going to like figure it out. I just had someone in social media. I'm doing a free online event this week and she said something like, "You're just one of those that is preying on my pain." It's like, "Wow, okay." If we're in pain, how amazing that we can be in self-awareness around it. And are we actually open to receiving the healing? Are we actually open to experiencing the opposite, the change in identity, the freedom, the presence? And I don't know about you, but it feels like a self deprecating path to try to do it alone versus for women that are hearing this and know that they have a painful experience with food that stems from a core lack of self love and not feeling safe to be able to come to someone like you that this is what you do. And yes, you are going to be compensated for that exchange of your love and your time and your energy. And you're going to be paid for it. And they're going to buy your book. And it is absolutely fair for you to be compensated because this is your expertise. It's your passion. It's what you've dedicated your life towards. And so for those who say, yes, I'm ready to extinguish the pain, it also means, yes, I'm willing to receive some support here.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is that we were talking about the paradigm is whoever had said that is still on that victim paradigm.
Yeah.
Right. And so that victim paradigm can really, oh gosh, if I've been in that, I know like, oh, I can't think of my food. This is happening to me. Like, I loved rolling around in that. Right. And you're right. Yeah. To have that support is really important and to know that you're worth it and to invest and even think about and this is because when someone comes to me, one of the first things we do is it's like, if you found freedom with food, if you found freedom with your body, what would that look like? And how would that impact your life? And so many of them are so in the pain, they can't even see what is even possible. So
Yeah.
I would leave that with everyone right now, like to actually sit with yourself and sit. And if it isn't the food, if it's that other thing that shows up, if this was to heal, if I were to find freedom in this part of my life, what is possible?
Mhm.
How would this impact my work, my relationships? How would this seep through the rest of my life? And to start there can really get you excited to actually take the steps. There's a space of empowerment there.
It's possible that if someone has been feeling foundationally unsafe their whole life, that is like so obscure they can't even go there. And so they get to, like, what I say is they get to borrow your belief in them. Like
Yes.
they get to borrow your ability to see the vision and know what's possible on the other side if they've lost the trust or belief in themselves, either because it's just too far fetched or they've tried other times and felt like it failed. And if so, if this is you and you're listening, if it just feels like too much to even go to the place of dreaming, of that place of freedom and presence and confidence, and it's like, oh my God, I don't even know what that would look like. Or if you're saying, I've tried it all. I've I've brought in the support. I brought and nothing has worked. And then it's like you're kind of losing hope. And I said, don't lose hope. You bring in someone like Marla and you get to borrow her hope. You get to borrow her trust because she sees it every day. She sees what is possible on the other side. And sometimes we get to receive that support and borrow someone else's belief in us until we have built up our own reservoir and our own belief in ourselves. True?
Absolutely. How beautifully said. And that
Mhm.
is, you know, that is becoming our own best friend, is knowing, because that's what a friend will do is, I think you need some help around this one,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Maybe you need to talk to someone who really knows this part.
Yeah. So good. Any
Yeah.
last parting words? Anything that feels unsaid? I'll make sure in the show notes you can find her on Instagram and all the places and the link to buy the book. Anything else that you'd like to add around best place for people to find you or anything that feels unfinished?
Yeah. If emotional eating, and that comes with binge eating, boredom eating, all those things, if that's something that's in you right now, I have a free course called Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Eating. It's a free course, but Mariah, I went for it. I gave, I think it's 7 or 8 modules, and it's really a source of starting for some people who just want to get your toe wet and get to know me a little bit more. I would definitely check that out and read the book, of course, and reach
Mhm.
out to me. As you can see, I'm very approachable. I get it. Find me on Instagram, message me and say, this is what's happening, right? And we can chitty chat and I can,
Okay. How do they find the free course? So obviously loveyourbody.loveyourself.com
yes.
is
So when you
probably a
go there, it's going to pop up
okay,
but I'll give you the link too. So you can put that
great.
in.
And I'll make sure the link to her TEDx talk is in the show notes. I'll make sure the link to the book is there. And then obviously Facebook and Instagram. And find her, reach out to her if this resonates with you.